Hello there, world of tankers, and welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Droodles Blitz, and did you know that there was an update yesterday? Yeah, a lot of you actually didn't know that. I had a couple pre-recorded videos, so I figured I'm gonna post the videos talking about test tanks before we get into the update. But here we are, and yeah, a couple vehicles have been changed. Nothing statistics-wise has been changed in the update, but the Object 260 has been given enhanced graphics, we can see here, and that is also the case for the Object 907. Now, there were some lower tier vehicles as well, like the Panther 2, the Tortoise, the Hellcat M41 Bulldog also received enhanced graphics, but really I only care more so about like the Tortoise, the 907, and the Object 260. I actually really like the camo on the 907. I do wish they had a little bit more life in it, but it looks a lot better than it previously did. The Object 260 also got a change to its legendary camo. We can see it's got a net on the gun now, which looks pretty sick. It's also got definitely more realistic looking eyes. I actually think the camo looks better. It's got a little fin on the back too, which it didn't used to have. But the camo's still pretty mid. I'm going to be completely real. I think the Pike is one of the most mid tier 10 camos. I think this looks way better. Now, the Object 260 appears to have gotten some more armor. I could be wrong, but taking a look at the picture I took yesterday when in a training room, I was using an E100, and this is an E100 with heat shells and calibrated. And yeah, that's pretty impressive armor. I mean, the upper plate is red, and you can even see I fired a heat shell, and it bounced on the upper plate. The turret also appears to have a stronger profile. It does have, obviously, this thin bar, which you can penetrate, but the turret did have larger cheeks to begin with, and especially with AP, in my opinion, the tank looks to have gotten more armor. Now, does that mean the Object 260 is going to be an incredibly well-armored beast? No. Probably not. The vehicle still has rather mediocre sides, its lower plate is very large and easy to penetrate, and in general, it isn't going to be that tricky to cut through, because you have to remember I was sitting directly straight on when taking that picture, so if you slightly angle it to the left or to the right, it's going to be an easy pen. But what I will say is that the armor looks surprisingly similar to that of an IS-7 on the upper plate, which is actually really good, if I'm going to be completely real. So enough said about the changes, let's actually see what the Object 260 is able to do. This is a tank that on paper looks really strong. It's got good mobility, solid damage per minute, decent accuracy, and after the calibrated buffs, a solid amount of penetration. But I usually find in actual practice, the 260 seems to struggle a lot more than it really should. While the frontal protection is pretty good if you're hiding the lower plate, at the end of the day, the side armor is pretty mid, and it's just not a great holding tank. You know, when I'm fighting an Object 260, I'm not really scared of it. An IS-7 has tungsten, it has a lot of health, and pretty good armor no matter what angle you're looking at. And because of that, the IS-7 can just hold a really solid position. And something like the E100 with its 700 damage per shot, or I guess 680, has the ability to chunk you. It has almost 2800 health. So there's a lot of different capabilities from so many different heavies. And the 260, well, all it really has is damage per minute and a little bit of mobility. But when there's other tanks like the T95E6, which have more mobility, more DPM, and better gun depression, to me it still feels like this tank struggles in a lot of situations. But we'll see. We'll see what we can do. We are going to start off this game by making our way over towards the medium flank. This is just always what I like to do on this map because, first of all, we're in a fairly mobile heavy. I mean, we have a top speed of 50, and the better part is that we can reverse at 20. The reverse speed is what really allows this tank to feel very, very maneuverable and capable. The only problem is we're on a map that has a heavy hill, and you do need a bit of gun depression to work it, and with only 6 degrees, it could be rather challenging to work effectively. But we're going to find out. We are going to use that speed we have, and we're going to cross as quickly as possible. The 121B gets detected, but that's not too big of a problem for me. We're going to even on the 57 Heavy. There you go, nice shot for 338 into his vehicle. Alright, well, we're going to put on our adrenaline. And we're going to reload again. Looks like the 57 Heavy is on reload himself. We're going to get a nice shell into the 60, and we're going to back up. So far, we're getting out bleeds, we're getting out damage, and we're doing a pretty good job. But we can see that we got penned right through the upper plate on that enemy Contra Caro. And this is a great example of, something like that enemy 60 not really being all too scared to play aggressive here. Our 5041, to be fair, though, is not doing much to stop the enemy. Alright, we're going to aim it on the AMX. There you go. Nice 398 into his vehicle. Oof, this is not looking good for our team, though. They need to get their butts in right now, or we are going to start entering some very, very sussler moments. Well, we got a good heat shell into the Yag. We're already up to 2200 damage. I mean, this is a great example of the DPM that the Object 260 does feature. It's able to get out some pretty good bleeds if you know what you're doing properly. And just holding here obviously stops the enemy 60 from making really any aggressive plays. We get a nice shot into his hatch, and we can also see that he ended up bouncing me in process, which is obviously really, really good. The Yag is currently not looking at me. Oh, man, that shell sucked. I can't believe my shell went so high on such an easy shot. Well, we got the AMX driving right over, and see ya. Not really sure why the AMX did that. I'm also really not sure why the 121B is playing so aggressive, but that's fine. We're going to reload. Oh, we got the 60 right in front. Oh, and the shell goes into the rock. Come on, game. This is a great example, though, of why the 60, even in a situation where we are doing really well, just feels so much more capable than something like an Object 260, because, I mean, we're already a two-shot for him, and it's going to take us multiple shells to clear his tank, and again, armor just doesn't get a single bounce because he cuts right through our lower plate. So in this situation, for example, we're just kind of useless. And the E6 shooting that one, or the 60 TP, literally killed us. I don't know why the E6 couldn't have helped me and just shot the 121B. We would have been fine. But he would rather farm damage than help his teammates. Now, I know there's going to be people in the comments like, oh, well, you do the same thing. As I always try to point out to people, I'm only going to farm damage if I'm in a situation where A, I know it's a guaranteed win, and B, I know that I'm not screwing over my teammates. In that situation there, it would have literally given him the exact same damage if he had shot the 121B or the 60 TP. He literally shot the 60, probably so that I would die and he could just farm up the rest of the HP there. I don't know if that's the case, but it really is cringe that he couldn't have just shot somebody and helped a player in need. In that battle, you can see the issues I personally have with the Object 260. Game started off great. We were getting out damage, we were holding, we were bleeding our opponents, and we ended up dealing 4,000 that game. I mean, we had a pretty solid result. But did you see how quickly my tank fell apart? That's the problem with the 260. Even though the armor on paper looks really good, and E100 loading heat, wow, it can't pen me. And then you actually play it in battle and nothing bounces you. Your sides are trash, your lower plate is terrible, and the vehicle just doesn't have much turret armor. And because of that, it just feels like the majority of times you play this tank, you're always getting pens. You're always in a situation where the enemy is somehow better than you. And that's where I really don't love this tank. I feel like you could drive an STB-1 or an M48 Patton, and you'd have way more mobility, better DPM, better accuracy, and better armor. You know, that's kind of the interesting part. But I don't think the 260 is an awful tank. You know, in the current meta, mobility is king. And right now, we're driving a tank that has mobility. But the problem is, you also need survivability. And that's where this tank struggles, as I mentioned. It doesn't have that survivability. It only has the mobility. And that's the issue, you know? So, we're going to move all the way wide over here. We do have the enemy FE2 and 5B. Cuts right through our sides, but at least we were able to get into the position that I wanted to. This spot alone is going to allow us to just hold the enemy team. They're not really going to be able to do anything, and if our E5 and STB can dig up on this hill, it's going to give us a huge advantage. I mean, look at this IS-4. Bro is paranoid of me right now, and that just gives our team such a good standing because now our E5 ideally is able to play this position. Never mind, our E5 just bled 1,000 health. Well, there's nothing I can do about that, is there? Well, we got the 2 and 5B. There you go. I mean, again, the armor on this tank, I don't know, man. I don't love the armor. Yep, there you go. Look at that. Right through our turret. So far, we've lost basically all of our health to the 2 and 5B, and we haven't even really gotten any, well, yeah, look at that. Wow. Yeah, I take it back. I'm sorry. The tank did not get buffed. The Object 260 is still just as mid as it always has been. And you can see why I don't like it right here. It just doesn't matter how good you are at the game or what you do. You get outplayed by everything because you have no armor. I mean, what are you supposed to do in this situation when you poke? You're perfectly in a side scrape. You're outplaying everyone. You're doing everything right, and yet your armor just looks like that. You get penned every single shot. Just like that, yeah, well, I don't know. All we can really do right now is try and hold off the 2 and 5B to a point where he can't really push. But apart from that, I mean, we're not really able to do anything here to this enemy heavy. I'm very confident if we try poking this 260, he's just going to cut right through my armor. So I don't know what to do here. What I can say is that we are up on base cap, and we're going up quite quickly. So I'll just keep waiting here. And we do have the IS-4. Of course, it's the Droodles fan that goes out of his way to flank behind me. Why wouldn't it be? Bruh, what a cringer. I got nothing else to say. Yeah, that's why you don't YOLO Droodles. Wow, I got nothing to say about that. Can't pen the 2 and 5B anywhere through the turret. That's on me. It most definitely is. People will go out of their way to tunnel me, and what ends up happening is you just die. We can see that the 57 Heavy and VK90 are holding the other side of the map, which is pretty good. We're just going to chill here, and there you go. Finally get a pen into the enemy 2 and 5B. We're going to put on our adrenaline. That way we can out-reload him, and we can chill here and just make sure that he really can't do anything about the hill. At this point, we're doing pretty decent, I would say. I mean, we're not doing anything incredible. That's a fact. But what we are doing is we are holding the enemy off, and at least maybe getting out some bleeds, possibly. I'm not too worried about this FE2 and 5B, but man, you can see the difference between a tank that has good armor and a tank that doesn't. I mean, oh man, what are we doing here, game? What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? What's going on? What's going on with my RNG? Well, E6 is easily going to out-reload us, but we do get the shell out. An awful roll, only 300 damage, but a pen's a pen, and we were able to push him off. That's really all we need to do here. So we're going to move up, and we're going to aim in. I don't really want to get shot by the 2 and 5B. I really ideally want to get that 183 cleared, but if we're not able to hit the 183, and he's dead now, we're doing pretty good. We're doing pretty good. So let's see if we can get out maybe a little bit more here. E6 is in the back, and 2 and 5B. Oh, perfect, perfect, perfect. All right. Just like that, we can now push the FE2 and 5B. Get a nice shot into his tank. He's still shooting me. Well, shoot me now. Yeah, you can't, because you're dead. All right, well, all that's left is a T95E6, who we are going to get a nice bounce on the rear of. Oh boy, I truly love my RNG in this game. All right, well, let's see. E6 is most likely going to run. Will he give me the shot? That's my question. He does. There you go. Nice 200 damage. Well, I think this was really the best example of why I don't like the Object 260. Any other tier 10 heavy in the same position and I would have been fine. My armor on the turret would have gotten bounces and my gun probably would have been more effective. I don't know. This is just why I don't really like the tank. You know, people always ask, how can you not like a tank that's fast, that has decent DPM, and, you know, great reverse speed and all these capabilities, and it's because of what you just witnessed. The armor is mid. The turret does not get bounces. The 2 and 5B butter through my turret every time. The gun, while it does have better pen than it used to, still doesn't have enough to really compete with, you know, vehicles like a 777, which are sitting upwards of 380 millimeters of pen, or even an IS-4, which is a little bit less, but still 20 mils higher at 370. The only thing the 260 has is mobility. And when you're stuck in a situation where you can't use that mobility like that game there, it really does feel painful. So what I will say is that it's not a bad tank. I do fairly well in it. I mean, you can see my stats, 3,600 average, but my win rate, 60%, that's freaking trash, bro. I mean, you look at any of my other heavies, and my win rate's sitting upwards of 85%. My 777, I'm sitting at 83%. Even my IS-4, which I don't love that much, still has a higher win rate. It's just, man, it has so much potential, yet absolutely fails, in my opinion. So I don't know. It's not a bad tank, but it's definitely not a vehicle you would see me messing around with. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.